Hello and welcome to From Mrs. to Me, a podcast where you'll be inspired by courageous stories of strength and resilience told by women just like you who have been through the upheaval of divorce. This is their journey from Mrs. to Me, finding their true identity and creating a bold, beautiful life. I'm Crissy Freeman and I'm your host, a certified life coach and divorced mother of two. Join me each week as we explore real stories of divorce and what it takes to transform and live in alignment with the real you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From Mrs. to Me. I'm Crissy Freeman, divorce empowerment coach and your host. I'm so excited to share the expertise of my next guest with you. Sue Vittner spent years in and out of unhealthy relationships. She often lost herself in relationships, stayed too long in some, she left too early in others, she was cheated on, lied to, and she cheated and lied. Fortunately, out of desperation, she discovered the law of attraction principles and realized that she had the power to create a life she truly desired. She began studying and applying these principles into all areas of her life, but especially around what she wanted in a relationship. Having taken all she learned, Sue loves helping people realize that they too have the power to create the life and love they desire. And she's created a 7-week program called the Finding Love Formula, based upon her own experience. She's an author, workshop facilitator, life coach, massage therapist, and artist. And her mission is to help people relax and connect to the deepest, most spiritual and joyous parts of themselves. I'm so happy she's agreed to join me and share the gift of finding love with you first, and then in a romantic partner. So welcome, Sue. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
And I just have to tell the audience that she has, if you're on YouTube, you can see she has this beautiful painting behind her. And I'm bringing that to your attention because, as I mentioned, she's an artist, and that is one of her beautiful paintings behind her. So I wanted to call that out as well. But Sue, so as you know, this podcast is about transformation after divorce. And one of the topics that comes up quite often with the women that I work with, and probably many of the listeners out there, is, will I find love again? And so I would love for you to tell us more about your personal journey to find love and what led you to studying the law of attraction.
Okay, well, as you saw in my bio, in and out of relationships. And I think the biggest thing is there's a point where you get really discouraged, like, oh, the next one's going to have the same thing that the other one had. And there's that repeated habit that happens, like either this one drinks or this one does drugs or this one works too much, like there's always something. And as I think we've talked before, it's like, but I'm the one who's always in the showing up. So there's something about me also. It's not all about them. So it's realizing that, okay, it's time to work on me, like these failed relationships. Or not failed, nothing. I don't ever think it's a failed. There's always growth and learning. But there comes a point where, okay, how can I look at me instead of seeing what's wrong with them? What's going on with me? So I've always been someone who's been introspective and wanting to learn self-help type stuff. So relationships are always the best mirror. And that usually happens during a relationship. It's like, oh, what am I realizing about myself? What am I pushing up against always? So then looking at myself, and then once I was single after sometimes failed relationships, then you can do a deep dive into yourself and really get to the root of what's going on. So for me, it was always an exploration, understanding more about myself. What took me to the law of attraction, I started going to Unity Church, which is it's kind of more of like a mindfulness, your thoughts create your reality type place already. So I just started learning more and more of like, okay, I'm creating my reality. So I just deep dove into that. Abraham Hicks was a huge teacher for me.
Love Abraham Hicks.
They're great. So just studying more and more, Wayne Dyer, all the greats. So that was maybe over 20 years ago when I got into that, learning about
Okay.
that.
Wow. Well, it's so interesting that you say, you have to really reflect and look back. At yourself and what is happening in these relationships, because if once you do, you start to see that there is some sort of pattern there. And what is that? And how do I get to sort of the core of that? And I think, one of the things I was talking about this morning in my Facebook group is around, you know, after my divorce, and this happens with a lot of women after divorce, is, you're sort of like, oh, I'm out of that relationship. It took me so long. Usually it's a long journey. And then you're done and you're like, okay, I'm done. Wow, what a relief. And so quickly, instead of sort of looking at, okay, what can I learn from that? We move on quickly to what's next. And so I was also going into failed relationship after failed relationship and going, okay, something's wrong with me. Something is wrong with me. But what I wasn't doing was saying, okay, how can I get to know me again? Who am I? And learn to love that person again. And so that leads me to my next question, which is, can you tell me how and if self-love has played a role in that process of you really figuring out, sort of navigating this journey of finding love again? Did that play a part, and how?
For sure. There was a lot of like self-forgiveness that I had to do around some of my relationships. And like I said, I had cheated at one point and other things happened. So how can I forgive myself so that I can love myself again? So I think really, whatever role you're playing, there's always some level of forgiving yourself, whether it's I stayed too long. What was I thinking? How did I not see the signs in this relationship that were going bad? Like, there's a lot of layers of that, really forgiving yourself. And for me, it was like a lot of journaling, um, and like mindfulness practices, yoga practices, anything that like brought me to self-care stuff. Even like taking time in the morning to make a good breakfast or have a cup of tea and sit and not like scroll on the phone. Like anything that you can do to really be with yourself. How can I love myself more in these moments, in the one-in-one moments? And also how can I prioritize myself with friendships, taking time to connect with others, and like whatever it takes. We have these love languages, the
Yes.
touch or words, like all of those. So what is your love language? Figuring out that about yourself. And mine's touch. Okay, I'm going to get more body work. I'm going to find ways like dancing, find ways that physically I feel that love also.
I love that. One of the things that I had learned somewhere along the way was about creating your own sanctuary. And what I ended up doing, like, as you talk about, this different self care and journaling, which has become one of my regular practices that I still do every day, is I created a space in my home, which was a condo, not a lot of space, but that was truly mine. And when I say mine, I mean, it's my home, but what that space had was books I love to read, colors that make me feel good, um, candles, smells, all just creating this environment where I could really tap into what feels good. And sunlight, a window that has a lot of sunlight. And then that allowed me to present myself in the moment, take it all in, practice some breathing and journal. And it was, so when you say that, like, that's the first thing that I visualize is, yeah, there's no phone there. There's no distraction. And it's truly just a space where you can connect with you. So I love that you said that, because I think that that is a huge piece in all of our healing journeys, tapping into what is it that feels good to us. And so I love that. So thank you. And going back a little bit to the law of attraction, can you talk a little bit about the principles around it? About, you hear all the time about it and, manifestation. What is that? What does it even look like? Oh, is that woo woo? And I heard that and believed it until I saw it happen, firsthand, or experienced it firsthand. But can you talk for the audience, those that aren't familiar with it, just a little bit more about the principles and how it works?
Oh, yeah. So the basic concept is what we put out vibrationally, whether we're saying it or not, how we're really feeling, what we're putting out into the universe is what comes back to us. So, for example, if you're looking for a parking spot or something, that's an easy example. If you go into the city and, oh, I know I'm not going to find a spot. I'm not like, you're just like convinced I'm not going to find a spot. You probably won't find a spot because that's what you're focused on. But if you're like, you know what, I bet I'm going to get lucky today and find a spot. Oh, usually it opens up. Like, this is a very simple way. There's obviously many deeper layers, but that's sort of a simple way of, what am I putting out? What am I expecting? What's coming back to me? And it's, Abraham Hicks often says, you can't just put like a smiley face on an empty gas tank and expect to go places. You have to do the work. You have to clear out, the limiting beliefs that you might have, the negative self-talk, all of that stuff, to get really clear so that you can create more space, more expectation for things that you're wanting to come into your life.
Yeah. Okay. And I love that you broke that down as simple as a parking space, because I think that helps people to sort of understand it's mindset, it's energy, it's all of that. It's what your thoughts, what you write down, what you visualize. There's so much to it, but I love that you just simplified it that way, because I think that that is a great way for people to sort of understand it. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you used it personally, and or how you've seen clients use it to be able to manifest that love partnership?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like I said, there's a lot of clearing out that I think has to do first, maybe, of making peace with the past relationships, forgiving myself, getting like all of that cleared out. And Abraham has this, and it's in my course also, like this emotional scale. So it's like, if you're feeling depressed or discouraged, how do you work yourself up slowly to the next feel better emotion? Because you can't just jump from feeling depressed to feeling joy and expect everything to be, manifest what you want. You kind of have to like clear out. So it's really not about avoiding any of the feelings. So it's working with the feelings, understanding your feelings. So that was a huge component of it. And then it's like, what is it that I want? Making a list of what it is that I want, doing vision boards. And vision boards, it's really the process of being in the space of seeing an image like, wow, I really want that. And just the activity of cutting out the images from maybe a magazine and putting them on a poster board, those kinds of things. So there was a lot of that. So it's like creatively using your imagination along with doing some of the work of clearing out the other stuff. So an example for what happened with me in terms of like using the law of attraction, actually seeing that it worked to manifest the partner that I have now, Todd, is I shared with you this. I had created a vision board with some girlfriends. We were just cutting out pictures from a magazine, had it up from in my bedroom for a couple years. Then I meet Todd after doing a lot of other things. And about a year into our relationship, he booked us to go to Kripalu, which is like a yoga place for those of you that don't know, retreat center, to do partner yoga there. So we go and do that. It was great. Come back. And then like a few weeks later, I'm looking at the vision board and there's this tiny picture that I had put on my vision board of a couple on a lawn doing partner yoga. And it says, couples can do partner yoga at Kripalu. Like it was the exact place. And I had never been there to Kripalu, and I don't even remember putting that on my vision board, but that was the energy that I wanted in a relationship. So that was like, wow, I literally manifested that exact thing.
Yeah.
And then I also had like a list, and almost everything on the list was what I was wanting in a partner. So it's just fun to see that actually manifesting happening.
Yeah. And this example, I love it so much because I'm constantly talking about vision boards. In fact, my daughter just came home from college and she has some areas that she's struggling. And so that's what we did. The first weekend she was home I was like, she'd never made one before. And it's as simple, right? It's as simple as we went to the store. We went to the corner store. We picked up a ton of magazines. And I was like, we're just going to cut and we're going to find like the words and the pictures and all the things. And, we tried to pick magazines that we thought would sort of, align with what we love. And we had the best time doing that. And now she has one in her room. And mine's not completely done yet, but I made another one for myself. And I think it's important to make them throughout your life during different chapters, whether it's not just about the relationship, right? It's about, like, I've done it with career when I was struggling with my job and what am I going to do next? I did this vision board and I'm telling you, I manifested this job. So it's like, it's incredible. It's about, that's why physically, cutting, physically, sticking something on a board and seeing it every day so that you're visualizing it and you're thinking about it. It's such a beautiful thing to see. And then I've used journaling as well as a tool to sort of visualize exactly what something looked like the home that I got after I got out of my family home after my divorce. I use journaling to do that. And so I just think I just love it so much and I believe in it so much. So I love that you called that out. And so tell me about, are there any key things that you learned that as you went through this process and were sort of rediscovering Sue? Were there any sort of moments where you were like, wow, I didn't know that about myself, or I was focusing over here on this and I should have been really looking at this?
I definitely think it was not focusing so much on the other, because there were actually so many times when I was younger in relationships, I didn't know what I felt, what I thought. It was like, what do you want me to think? How do you want me to feel? Like I was almost giving myself to the other. So in all of this growth of self-love and self-discovery, it's like, wait, what do I really think? How do I really feel? And really connecting with those emotions, not being afraid of them, honoring them. And it's almost like bringing myself back to me instead of giving it to the other. Because I'm someone, I can be in a room and know what everyone needs, all everyone else's needs, but what of my own? So really understanding that about myself. So that was really huge. And I think that also, like, when you're embodied fully and fully in love with yourself, fully understanding yourself, connected to yourself, that's when the other's going to show up, because you're not looking out there for them. It's like you're here and then you're radiating out, and then they'll find you and you'll attract that person. Yeah.
Yes. And it reminds me so much of, some of the things that I talk about with women after divorce is this whole thing around identity. And when you're a mom or you're a wife or you're a girlfriend or a daughter or whatever you are, you're so external facing around, okay, I have to be the perfect mom, or I have to make sure my spouse is okay and I'm going to fix them. And it's so external facing when really we should be doing the complete opposite and trying to figure out who are we and how can we sort of shine our brightest light out into the world. And that's when things start to shift and change. And so it's that whole process, I think, of rediscovery. And it's such a learning, and we're constantly learning. And I think it's also just so the audience knows, Sue, not only the painting that she has behind her, but also I found one of her paintings that I love that's called Surrender. And the reason I love it so much is because, well, first of all, I love your work, Sue. But second, surrender has sort of been a word that I've had out there for the past year or so around surrendering to what is, surrendering to the moment. And that also means the discomfort. And we sometimes have to face those things that we don't want to face as we go through this journey of rediscovering ourselves, that I don't want to see that over there, or I don't want to do that work because that means I have to make some hard decisions. And so that's what's so great about this law of attraction work, is that you're bringing forth those things that once you've cleared out and done that inner work, you're bringing forth those things that are really in alignment with your true authentic self. And that's what's so beautiful about it. So I want to shift for a minute because I want to talk. I want you to be able to share with the audience about your 7-week program, and not to give all the secrets away, because I think it's important for people to go take a look. And at the end of this, I'll share where they can find more information. But can you just talk us through sort of what was sort of the reason for creating this program, number one, what led you to wanting to do that, and a little bit more about sort of why it's a 7 weeks.
Well, it took me probably 5 or 6 years to, probably more than that, I don't know, just learning things, grow, all of the things. So I wanted to have it more concise, like almost like a roadmap for people, because if I had had that, it would have been a lot easier than pick a little here, pick a little here, pick a little here. So I just wanted to organize it so that people could have, okay, let's focus on this, because that's what I found helped me. Let's focus on this, and then this would be the next step, and then this. So I really wanted to help others have it more simplified, almost like the Cliff Notes, and how to go through this process. And of course, you're not gonna, well, some people might, who knows, but I wouldn't say, oh, you start on day 1 and in 7 weeks, you're going to meet that person.
Right. That would be amazing. You'd have lines and lines of people lining up to do this program.
I created this way, so it's bite size also. So little bits here, but in an organized way. And it's really a collaboration of everything that I've learned that helped me to manifest my partner, to help me clean up the limiting beliefs. There's a lot of exercises in it, a lot of activities, sort of the highlights of everything the best things of everything that I experienced, that I put it into a concise program for people.
I love it. And I've had the chance to take a look at it. And for the audience, not only is it, I think, a great program with great action steps and resources, it's also the testimonials in there are so beautiful. Like the experiences that people have had going through it. I was so blown away by that. And that to me speaks a lot to the value in this program. So I want to highlight that. So when we end here, I will have you sort of talk about where people can find this. But I encourage people to go take a look and just read through the testimonials, because to me, if I didn't have this wonderful partner right now, I would be going through this, because it looks amazing. So one of the other things I want to talk about, because you do so many things, Sue. I mean, you're an artist, you're an author, you are a coach. Do you mind talking a little bit about your book? Because I know you shared that a little bit with me about that, and I loved it.
And the book was, it's called From Your Vision Board to Your Bedroom, Using the Law of Attraction to Find True Love. So that was the precursor to the course, the book. And I had done that probably, I don't remember how many years ago it came out, maybe 8 or 9 years ago or something like that. And that also, it's more of a workbook. So a lot of the activities in the course are in the book. So it's like doing the activities in that. So it's more of a self-help book.
I love that. And you can do activities right in it, which I think is so great. I have so many books on my bookshelf, but I love the ones where you can actually do activities. And because when you actually apply it to your own life, I mean, everybody is different. And even when you think about, this program nothing is a one size fits all. When I got divorced, I was like, somebody tell me the answer. I need somebody to tell me. I don't want to feel this way. I feel stuck. I just want the answer. And I want to tell the audience that it is different for everyone. And, the journey, the length of the journey is different for everyone. And we have to go through the healing first. And I think that is part of the process that you want to be impatient with, because when it takes, I know for me, it was like, okay, I'm doing the journaling. Okay, I'm getting up earlier and I'm exercising. Why am I not making this work? But I want to ask you that, because that I think is important, is that if you're focused on the end goal and how long it takes to get there, I would think, and tell me if I'm wrong, I would think that prohibits you from really getting there in the time frame you want to get there. Is that right?
Yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you're not in the moment, if you're there, then you're going to have all that resistance. So that's another thing. Like, how much resistance is there between what you want and where it is? So the more you can just be in the present and like savoring it. Sometimes now that I'm in a relationship, it's like, wow, I don't do these journal practices anymore. So there's almost something precious about that time when you're single. And it's like you donating that time to yourself, dedicating it to yourself. And so it's almost like you can enjoy it and savor it and be in it and trust that there'll be something on the other side necessary. But it's a journey and it's a process, and enjoying that. It's like a road trip. Like if you're here and you want to go to California, there's so many states to enjoy along the way, and so many detours and so many people to meet. Like, you never know what's going to happen. And another thing that I talk a lot about is like Mr. Right for now versus Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. And it's like in using dating as just an experiment. Like, what do I like? I might not know because I've been married to this person for 20 years. I don't know what I like. I don't know how. So it's just taking it out of the pressure of this has to be the one. It's like, well, wait a minute. Let's just see.
Yes.
Enjoy it as like just an activity, doing research.
Yes. Oh, okay. I just have to like highlight that because that was my experience was I was doing it all wrong. And I think so many women do is it's like, okay, you're on your online dating and you're like, okay, he likes all the things I like. I like the color of his eyes. And, oh yeah, all that is exactly what I want. And okay, this is it. This is it, and you show up and it is such a flop. And you're like, what? WTF. I thought I had this figured out. This was the guy. And so it wasn't until I literally dropped that and just said, you know what? I love meeting people. I love having conversation with people. And I'm so curious about people. So what a great experiment and opportunity for me to get to know people. And that is when all of this like sort of energy that wasn't good energy around finding the one dropped away. And my amazing partner, Rob, that I have now, that is when I found him, when I finally dropped all that and did the whole journaling thing, the manifesting around, what do I definitely not want? And why was I attracted to that before? And what do based on what I love, my passion, who I am at my core, how does that potentially line up with a partner? And so, but also knowing that I wasn't going to get the exact everything on that list. I mean, that is another thing we all need to know is that, it may not be the 20 things, but what are the most important? And what is the conversation like? How do you feel in your body with that person? And so anyway, but what I more than anything wanted to highlight was what you said about just enjoying the ride. Like dating it's another experience in life that you don't get every day. And so why not, just make it okay, I'm going to meet another person and I hope it's a good conversation and I hope I enjoy my time. And that's about it. So thank you for that. So yeah, there is again, like the coaching, the art, tell me about, because I love this story. And I know, when you and I met in person, we were talking about, just how different things show up in our lives. And you were talking about the art and how that just naturally kind of resurfaced again in your life. And I think it's important to talk about because one of the things that in my Facebook group and when I talk to clients is finding your passion and finding those things that light you up and how important that is, outside of finding love and all these other things. That is another part of it is you don't have to do it for a full-time career, but how can you pursue that thing and make a pivot in your life to make room for those things? And so can you share sort of how the art came back into your life again?
Well, actually, I was meditating one time and I had an image of finger painting. And I was wondering, I have not finger painted since kindergarten. I do massage, so it kind of made sense. And I just sort of followed that thread. I looked online, finger painting, and I met this woman online and I told her about my vision I had. And she's like, oh, these are the paints I use and this is what I do. So I just sort of followed that. And once I got doing it again, because I did art like in college and along the way, but I had put it aside for quite a while. So once I just started finger painting and just being in the moment, it's like time just flew by. So it's finding that thing where you lose time, whether it's sewing or cooking or riding your bike into town or playing music, whatever it is, it's like finding that thing where you can get lost, you can get in the zone and just giving yourself that time.
Yeah.
It's really, mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that resonated with me so much is because when I was meditating, I had this vision of me on a swing. And I remembered that afterwards, I was like, oh, swings. I love swings. And I remembered when I was a kid, every night when my mom was making dinner, I would go out back and we had this old rusty swing set. And I would swing on that swing set as high as I could, and I would belt out these songs. So I knew the lyrics. I still do. It's a weird thing with my brain. I know the lyrics to like every song after I hear it once or twice. It's very strange.
Wow.
But I would go out there at night and I would swing. I could hear my mother cooking and I would swing on that swing and I would sing at the top of my lungs. And it was a point in my life. Yes, I was young, but I wasn't worried about anything except for swinging as high as I could and singing. And it didn't matter what my voice sounded like. Nothing mattered. And so I told Rob like a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, I am ordering a swing. We have this great yard. So I found this company that makes these beautiful swings out of trees. And they're wooden and they have these gorgeous ropes. And so I'm getting myself a swing. It's not a career. It's not going to give me any money or anything, but I know it's going to make me feel good because that is something I loved. So I kind of laughed at myself, but I love your story because it's so similar because like finger painting, how many of us did finger painting when we were kids, right? And the fact that you not only did it, now you're creating these beautiful, amazing fingerprinting works of art. I just love that. So, and it gave me the opportunity to share about my swing. So that makes me happy.
I love it.
Oh, anyway. So to get back on track, I wanted to, I always ask my guests one question to end the interview. And one of the reasons I ask it is because From Mrs. to Me is really about getting in touch with you, rediscovering or discovering you for the first time. And that is showing up as the real you, being authentic without judgment. And so my question for you, Sue, is what does authenticity mean to you?
Yeah, it's just showing up. Here I am. No mask, no hiding. And I love this question because when I first met Todd, it was, I think, our second date. We were just like, put it out there. I have, moles on my back. I have, like, this is what I am. This is who I am. I'll clean up down there.
That's amazing.
So it's just being that pure self that you are and loving it and not comparing to others, not measuring. Yeah. Just showing up who you are as you are. Yes.
And that is, for some reason, it's so hard for so many of us. And it shows up it's almost like it sort of hits you in the face later in your life. Like, what have I been doing? What is this thing I've been chasing? Who am I trying to be? And, you said it. It's like taking off the mask, taking off the costume. We're always putting, throughout our lives, these different costumes on, like I mentioned earlier. And it's like, why? Why do we want to be like everybody else? How boring. I think what is amazing about people is how unique we all are, how we see the world differently. And I love that you and Todd did that. I think that is so awesome and amazing. And I think that everyone should do that when they go out and date, is say, listen, I'm just going to throw it all on the table. These are my quirks. I'm weird. These are the things I like to do and what my things look like, and just put it out there. Why not?
And I think that's the most, I think it's more attractive. I think people want the real, the authentic. Yes. That's what's going to shine out, not covered up.
Yep. Yeah. I could not agree more. So, Sue, I have so enjoyed our conversation. And so what I want the audience to know is, if they want to get in touch with you, how can they do that? A couple of things. How can they get in touch with you and find out more information about you? And then also, how can they get more information about your course?
Okay. Well, I would imagine under this podcast, you could put a link to the course.
I will absolutely do that in the show notes. Yes.
So in the show notes, you can find the link to the course. And my website is SueVittner.com, VITTNER.com. That's my website. So
fabulous. Okay. Well, thank you.
And thank you so much.
Yes. For those of you who are interested in joining the Facebook community, it is From Mrs. to Me, Rediscovering You After Divorce. There's some great tools and tips. And once a month, we do a divorce recovery circle where we all get together and support one another. And I provide some coaching as well. So check it out on Facebook. And as I like to always say, please, if you enjoyed this episode with Sue, please subscribe, rate, and review this podcast so we can keep it going. And remember, you can't pour from an empty cup. So keep doing the inner work, and I'll see you here next time. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed another episode of From Mrs. to Me, real life stories of real women and their journey of transformation after divorce. I'm Crissy Freeman, and if you like this episode, please drop a review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Do you have a story to share? Are you ready to inspire other women on their journey through divorce? If so, find me on Instagram at From Mrs. to Me. For more tools and resources on creating your path to transformation after divorce, follow my community on Facebook, From Mrs. to Me, Rediscovering You After Divorce.